go further, because if you continue on that line of argument, so many things will pop up, and one of such, yes, and one of such is even the president contested on the APP, or is it ANPP, then CPC. It is until it came on the platform APC that he won the election. So individual doesn't cut it for some people, but the platform, which is a political party, for some others. But moving forward, looking at Vialsa, we're looking at how our democracy has evolved. We're trying to see how we have been able to get to a point where we think that we're almost there, and sometimes we go some steps backwards. INEC and the conduct of politicians during election is in focus again here.
Both in Kogi and in Bielsa, there's a particular point we must of necessity look at here, and that is an institution called INEC. That institution is paid by public wealth. Everybody. It has no party coloration by way of taxes or resources. The resources of Nigeria belong to all of us. And INEC comes up as a national body. We need to come to a point where that national body serves national interest. Because if you want to scrutinize a few of the things that have happened, you realize that a lot has to do with bending the rules to suit either an ethnic group or a political group or a social group. And we need to come as Nigerians to a point where we are able to have a national body that has no allegiance to any individual ethnic group or religion. And that is the number one challenge that we have with INEC, being able to be a national body. The number two problem that we have with INEC is that INEC has to come to operate on principles of best practices. 2019 is 4 years away.
Less than 4 years.
Or less than 4 years away. Now, it will shock you to know that the last election that we had was about 9 months ago. 9 months ago. The question number one is, if I was in charge of a corporate organization and I was given the responsibility of INEC, so to speak, within the first 3 months of the last election, I'll do a post-mortem analysis. I'll look at all the issues that arose. I'll look at where we had failures. I will communicate it to the stakeholders. Nigerians will see that these were the issues, these were the problems, and arising from these issues and problems, these are the things we are going to do going forward. In the first 6 months, 3 months, they do analysis. In the next 3 months, they do stakeholders engagement, disseminating information. In the next 3 months, they do strategic analysis and placement of going forward, and they start to implement. What happens? The average Nigerian starts to think, wow, 2019, man, is going to be...
But in a situation where the leadership of INEC was recently inaugurated, less than 3 months.
I take exception to that again. I think that it's an insult and an abuse on people in INEC who are collecting monthly salary to talk about leadership. Whether you have a chairman, you don't have a chairman, there's an institution, there's a body, there are people being paid salary on a daily basis. They should do their work.
So
what is the function?
Are you blaming INEC for this?
Yes, I'm blaming them.
Why?
You can't tell me you're waiting for a chairman to come. You have directors, you have deputy directors, you have managers, you have line officers, you have all sorts of people given roles and responsibilities. And when you check the function of the chairman sits to take certain strategic policy decisions, not management day-to-day operations of the system. You don't need a chairman to approve that you should do a post-mortem. You don't need a chairman to approve that you should do a stakeholders engagement. You don't need a chairman for all these things, even if INEC had no, and that is the biggest problem that we have.
We are
looking too much at the head.
What would you say?
Yes.
I mean, when we talk about violence and polls,
Yes.
I do recall that on the day of the Bielsa elections, I monitored some of the media houses,
Yes.
and on one of the platforms, the Bielsa rec, the resident electoral commissioner,
Yes.
was extremely upset. I think he
Yes.
had gone on one of the platforms that morning and was talking about the violence that has characterized the environment, as it were, and has also paralyzed, as it were, the deployment of officers to certain areas to conduct the elections. How did he was saying, then you'll blame me for not being able to deliver credible elections. Can we really put the blame at his feet?
I am shocked. I am really shocked. The man must have been imported from Mars and brought to Nigeria to be shocked at the violence. We play the ostrich all the time. We know the truth, but we bury our heads in the sand and think we're hiding.
I was going to say, sorry to cut you there, I was going to remind us, someone who's been monitoring elections in the country and also around the continent, Chukwuma Ezeala, who is a legal practitioner. He was here yesterday and he did say, surely there are reports after elections. INEC report, the security report on security situation, and as well as the conduct of that election. So we now know that they have reports following every election. But again, looking at what we have seen, Mark just reminded us of what we saw in the news space, talking about violence in this particular election in just a few places in Bielsa State. Does that mean that such reports are never looked into? For instance, if we talk about security report and crowd, maybe restiveness in some other places that we have seen over the years, what does such report do?
I'll tell you what it is. What is election? Election is Nigerians going for that thing that will make them forever. And that thing is so important that they are willing to give anything to get it. I sit down as INEC officer and I ask myself one question. Can I change that? Because if this thing is a matter of life and death, a man was a nobody. He becomes a House of Assembly member. He becomes a somebody overnight. We know that. Sulaiman, you and I know that there's nobody that is a member of the House in your community that his life is not transformed, is not changed. And you are telling me, take it easy, play down on it, don't. No. The first question you ask is, can I change that? If I can't change that, then there's a problem.
You think there's no attempt from INEC?
What is the attempt from INEC when we know that you
and
get
the security agencies?
No, this is not INEC. This is, excuse me, INEC should, knowing the problem they have, network with the National Assembly and see to what extent we can make elections to be service, a public officer to be accountable, so that I'm not going to fight you to wash your shirt for you. No, I'm going to tell you, Sulaiman, I like your suit. I can dry clean that suit so good. And I just need a token, whatever. You tell me, no, sorry, I can't fight you. By the time I come to say, no, you must be, I must, then there's something. Public office is a matter that unless we address it...
So that's not a problem for INEC. How can we blame INEC
that's why
for
I
that?
said, no.
You can say that INEC can have that conversation with the National
That's
Assembly.
what I just said.
So that there is a reduced violence,
Yes,
which you already
that's what I
said.
just
But
said,
that
yes.
is not the problem of INEC.